Hey everyone, Vibra here. Patch 2.2 is dropping, and it's looking like a full-on attack patch. 3 new damage dealers, plus a stun support to back them up. But not all of them are worth your pulls. Today, I'll tell you which ones you should really go for. The attack meta is back, but not in the way we've known it. Attackers are changing, and it really feels like the game is pushing us towards running more than one attack character per team. So, let's get straight into it. First up, we've got Seed, the brand new character in the first half of patch 2.2. Seed is a quick swap electric attack DPS. The key term we're going to use here is quick swap, because that's exactly how Seed is meant to play. She comes on the field, deals her damage, and benefits from the buffs she can generate. But here's the catch. Seed actually needs another attack character on the team in order to function properly. Here's how it works. When Seed casts her EX special, she provides a buff to your other attack character. Then, when that character casts their EX special, it gives a buff back to Seed. And if both buffs are active at the same time, you unlock an extra bonus buff for both characters. So overall, Seed ends up giving herself a pretty solid buff package. The exact numbers aren't confirmed yet, but if I had to place it, I'd say it's probably weaker than Astra's, but stronger than Lucy's, somewhere in that bracket for now. The assumption I'm making here is that it can't be as big as a full-on dedicated support, but it is probably going to be stronger than what we saw from the older A-rank supports back in 1.0. That means Seed not only benefits herself, but she also gains a ton of value from having another attack character on the team. That means you're then going to be quick swapping between 2 attack characters, and we'll talk about this quite a lot more when we get to Orphe, because it does seem like Seed and Orphe are shaping up to be a very strong duo. But for now, I think that most other attack characters are going to be sacrificing their field time in order to buff up Seed. You can kind of think about this as you think about anomaly characters, because they typically are going to want another anomaly character to bounce off of. So ideally, what Seed wants is another attack character who's going to take up very little field time, someone who can come in, pop their EX special, and then can do stuff from off-field, like Orphe, which we'll get to in a moment after we talk about the other character that is coming in the first half of 2.2, which is Trigger. So Trigger is an electric stun agent, and honestly, Trigger's always been pretty solid. I do think that if you have Trigger and you enjoy playing her so far, then that's great. If you maybe didn't pick up her engine, she is one of the characters who does benefit from their engine absolutely massively. Her engine is really good for her. By the way, Trigger is an aftershock stun agent, which means she can stun from off-field just like Jafufu. You do need to set up her bar a bit, holding and building her basics, but once that's done, you can swap her out and mostly forget about her until it's time to bring her back in for an EX special. That's pretty much how Trigger works as well. I think Trigger is actually a very solid agent, and with the Aftershock element in play and the Oval Squad synergy, she takes up very little field time while still being super useful alongside Seed and Orphe. Honestly, that trio looks like one of the strongest teams this patch is building towards, especially if you skipped Trigger last time. And we've seen this pattern before. They put several characters together who synergize really well, almost cornering you into feeling like you need to pull for more than one, but you really don't. What I do think is happening here is the start of attack characters functioning more like anomaly characters. If anything, they might come out a little bit undertuned at first, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. Alright, let's move on and talk about the new character coming in the second half of patch 2.2, Orphe. Now, Orphe is labeled as an aftershock attack agent, which at first might sound kind of strange. Normally, when you pull an attack character, you expect them to spend a lot of time on field dealing damage, right? But Orphe is different. She's designed to deal a significant amount of damage from off-field, and that immediately makes her stand out. This design is also what makes her such a good partner for Seed. Remember, Seed needs another attack character who doesn't hog field time, and Orphe fits that role perfectly. Not only does she deal aftershock damage from off-field, but she also buffs the aftershock element itself, which naturally synergizes with Seed's kit. Here's how her gameplay works. Orphe builds up a mechanic called bottled heat, which is represented by the bar under her name. As that bar fills, she gains access to her signature laser attack. This attack seems to have two distinct stages, and when the laser is fully unleashed, it puts your entire squad into what's called the zeroed-in state. From what was shown in the livestream, zeroed-in provides a general attack buff. We don't know the exact numbers yet, but based on how these buffs usually work, it'll probably be solid. Not as strong as Seed's buff, but definitely impactful enough to matter in team rotations. Now, there are a couple of interesting gameplay details with this laser. When you activate it, you get a quick assist prompt that lasts for most of the attack's duration, right up until the second stage starts. With precise timing, you could potentially use the whole held laser special, get both stages of damage, and then immediately swap into another character with a quick assist to keep your momentum going. The catch is that you might need to hold the button for a little while before switching, and there's a possibility that swapping too early could cut the attack short or reduce the uptime of that zeroed-in buff. That's something we'll need to test once the patch goes live. But here's the bigger picture. Orphe is an attack agent who works primarily off-field, and that's something we haven't really seen in ZZZ before. Every other Aftershock character so far has been a stun agent, so Orphe is breaking new ground here as the first true Aftershock DPS. That alone makes her worth paying attention to, because depending on how strong her numbers are, she could redefine how Aftershock teams are built. Now, I'll be honest, I think there's a chance that both Seed and Orphe end up slightly undertuned at launch. And the reason is simple. Their mechanics have a ton of potential. If both of them release overtuned, especially with how well they synergize, we could see an attack-dominated meta where everyone feels pressured to pull for them. So the devs might hold back a little bit on raw numbers just to play it safe. But if they don't hold back and Orphe comes out dealing serious off-field damage on top of bringing buffs and Aftershock synergy, then we might be looking at one of the strongest agents in the game. To put it bluntly, an off-field attack agent being anywhere near as strong as an on-field DPS would be crazy. And while it's hard to imagine her surpassing a dedicated on-field attacker, the fact that it's even a question shows just how much potential she has. Anyway, speaking of on-field attack agents, let's talk about Evelyn, who's also featured in the second half of 2.2. Evelyn is a fire attack agent, and she's definitely a field-hungry character. She loves staying on-field and dealing consistent damage. You can technically run her on Hormone Punk and just bring her in during stun windows, but the way she's designed, she really shines when she gets full field time. Her gameplay revolves around building up stacks before the stun window, and then, once the stun hits, you want to chain attack as much as possible. And honestly, Evelyn is one of the most fun characters to play in Zenless Zone Zero. She has a really cool mix of mechanics with a low entry skill floor, but also a very high skill ceiling. At a basic level, anyone can pick her up, land a few chain attacks during stun, and do fine. But at a high level, I've seen some insane Evelyn gameplay, where people absolutely melt enemies with perfectly timed combos. She's definitely a rewarding character if you want to master her. Now, since Evelyn is an older unit, I won't spend too much time breaking her down. But in terms of patch value, I think Seed and Orphe have clearly been designed to work closely together. We even saw them demoed with Anby, who can definitely fit in with both, though probably not as well as they fit with each other. Still, as a secondary attack slot, Anby looks like a solid option. That said, I also think Evelyn can slide into that role too, especially alongside Orphe. If Orphe ends up functioning primarily from off-field, then pairing her with an on-field fire DPS like Evelyn means you're constantly stacking fire damage against fire-weak enemies. That kind of synergy could lead to some seriously explosive damage rotations. So what's the takeaway? Overall, I'd say the pull value for patch 2.2 isn't sky high unless you're specifically looking to build around Seed and Orphe together. With anomaly patches in the past, you could pull just one anomaly unit and slot them into an existing team. But with this new trend of attack characters who either quick swap or function heavily off-field, the ideal setup is to run them together. That means if you manage to pull both Seed and Orphe, you'll end up with a very strong team core. But if you can't, then it might be smarter to skip this patch, or maybe just consider picking up Trigger, or pulling for either Seed or Orphe if you know you want them for a specific comp. All right, that's gonna wrap things up. What do you guys think? Are you planning to pull Seed, Orphe, Evelyn, or maybe even Trigger? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!